and such weren't too happy about it to begin with. So they sent a couple of undercover cops in November 2000 who pretended to be students and stood in a circle and took the toke off the roach joint that was going around, put it in their pocket, and I was arrested later as I was leaving campus and charged with trafficking, which actually ended up sticking. I got a $500 fine and was banned from campus for about 4 years. Ironically, instead of anyone or everyone running in fear, the meetings went from 30 people a week to 100 people a week. The next week, people were just enraged that I would be arrested in that manner, and that somehow sharing a joint was trafficking, was just absurd. And so the meetings actually became very popular. I got lots of media, like the article Mike was pointing at there. And yeah, things, it's been interesting. Almost every time I've been arrested, I've made things better instead of worse.
Thank you, Ted.
No worries. So we ready, Phil?
Yeah.
Alrighty then. So, this is Brownie Mary and Dennis Perron, in a way the Adam and Eve of medical marijuana here in North America. But I never met them. They were down in California. And Brownie Mary, as you may assume, made hash brownies, gave them out to people with AIDS, turned their lives around. Dennis lost his partner to AIDS, but certainly he saw how much cannabis benefited him. And as a result, he started up the San Francisco Cannabis Buyers Club. I think it was 94, maybe 92, kind of a blur to me. Obviously, I was never there. But it was their efforts that really sparked an entire movement in medical cannabis. It was known before that cannabis was good for, say, cancer patients going through chemotherapy. Cannabis does a lot of things. When you smoke it, it's a smooth muscle relaxant. That's why it's good for the munchies. It both relaxes your stomach, which is a smooth muscle, and triggers your appetite in your brain. So when you're going through chemotherapy, eating is not so easy, whereas, smoking a joint before chemotherapy would often, really make a huge difference to people. So that was one of the first and more commonly known uses of cannabis as medicine. But the AIDS epidemic changed things. At that point, cannabis became clearly helpful for people with AIDS, especially just smoking a joint. The immediate relaxing effect, relief of pain, the relief of the anxiety of knowing that their death was coming so quickly. Because in the early days, AIDS diagnosis was really a death sentence. The drugs that they gave people were these cocktails that typically made people feel worse more than they made them feel better. And it was a real gamble for a lot of people to try those. And so, yeah, they got, actually Dennis at one point got a 4-story former police station set up as the San Francisco Cannabis Buyers Club, working with the city hall. And they were, operating full tilt until the federal government sent their DEA agents in. As I said, there's been this conflict in the US between state and federal laws that played out not so well at times for the movement. And so unfortunately that building and location got shut down. But what happened was 13 clubs opened up instead. So they didn't have just one big target, they had all these targets. And and that really also inspired more advocacy and more push for ballot initiatives, because that's really how a lot of things have changed in the United States. It hasn't been so much case law as ballots that have changed state laws for medical or recreational purposes in a lot of cases. And so, yeah, so I was, hearing about that, and I guess my story is a bit, I graduated from Wilfrid Laurier University in Ontario with a philosophy degree, started in economics and math, become a chartered accountant, didn't work out. Came out here, wanted to write books, came across Tempology 101, first in Vancouver, moved here to start writing my book and teaching about it. That's when I began to meet patients and heard stories about people like Dennis that were openly operating. Met a woman in James Bay who made brownies and cookies and sobs and stuff as well. Her partner sold pot, and she volunteered in the AIDS community here in Victoria. And that's where I got to meet people who not only smoked cannabis for their medicine, but ate it. And typically for people with AIDS back then, if they smoked pot, it would help them, but they were on a bad path. If they started to eat the cannabis and smoke it, that would change everything. They'd put weight back on. They'd be going back to work. It would make a significant difference in their lives. And so I got to see that in a lot of cases. And that was enough to inspire me to start up the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club 30 years ago last month. I was 26 years old, making the van, got a pager and a pamphlet, and figured I was going to get arrested a few times. So anyway, at first it was hard to know where to draw the line. The San Francisco club hadn't had a clear mandate. We hadn't had any case law come out yet, at least in this area. The area of case law that I could study that brought up similar health issues is actually the Morgentaler decision around abortion rights. In that case, the Supreme Court of Canada instilled our right to choose our medical treatment, our course of medical treatment, no matter what the doctors say. We can refuse or request medical treatment if it's legally available. And so that was what I built our mandate off of. And upon consulting a few lawyers, we decided that people with incurable physical ailments had a medical necessity that would invoke the Charter of Rights and Freedoms to grant them protections from the law. And so at first it was strictly like physical, incurable medical problems that would qualify a person. But we didn't require a recommendation from a doctor. We just required a person to be able to prove that they had a serious, significant health problem, and would hope that a judge would see to protect that. And so so I got a pager pamphlet, started going for it, got an apartment within a few months, and then about 5 years into it, ended up actually almost getting arrested, but instead the police told me to go get a storefront, which I did, called the store Ted's Books, and then started to get arrested. And so, it all kind of happened in a way relatively quickly. So I was arrested in November 2000 here at UVic for the smoking joints, the 420 that I mentioned. I was actually also arrested 1 week later at annual pot cookie giveaway I started to organize downtown. So I got busted with 420 cookies the week after I got busted up here, which actually just made me more popular and get lots of media attention, because they would say in the press that I was still selling medical marijuana while I'm getting arrested doing these other public demonstrations. And so within a few months of that, the police tried to arrest me. The judge at the time actually protected us, and we were told to get a storefront. It's a lot easier to get a warrant in a store than it is a private residence, though. So they made us more vulnerable in that switch. But anyway, we operated out of Ted's Books for about 9 months before the first police raid. The first one was from someone that I'd actually revoked their membership because I caught him openly selling to someone who wasn't a member. So he brought the police in to try to shut us down. Then we got raided in January 2002, March 2002, June 2002. That's when I decided to run for mayor, because I figured I'm going to jail, so I may as well have something to do while I'm there. And they left me alone during that time period. But then they busted us again in February 2003. We opened after every single raid. We knew we could be going to jail. At one point, I literally said goodbye to my store. I'd been arrested 4 times, had 6 trafficking charges, but the judges still let me out with quite small bail, honestly. The circumstances under which I was arrested were pretty extraordinary, and the judicial system at least was quite aware of that. And so, I'm very grateful for the courts in this country, and have placed a great faith in them. So I was getting arrested a lot. and there's other things happening as well across Canada. I wasn't the only one getting arrested. Like I say, in the 90s, things seemed pretty quiet, but all of a sudden, the turn of the century, there's a medical marijuana program, and I guess part of the thought was that people should be doing it legally. There's a legal program now, so these illegal compassion clubs are no longer necessary. Was at least part of the police's thought. Us and many others continue to operate and have one court decision after the next in our favor. And so I guess 2004 was the first big decision in our favor. This article here is from 2004. It's my favorite title because I'm a drug dealing angel of mercy. I'm not one or the other. Certainly, we were getting a lot of media attention from what we were doing. All the publications in town, Victoria News, Monday Magazine, and stuff were covering almost everything that was happening to us through these times. I had, like I say, 6 trials for the club I was juggling, plus 3 growers that were going through court, getting busted there as well. So I was kind of living in the courthouse for a while. We were also pushing our city hall here in Victoria for a number of different things. We've gotten a proclamation for Medical Marijuana Day for years. At one point, when we were arguing how terrible Health Canada's programs were, the mayor and council told Health Canada to send a representative out to explain things. That representative refused to meet with any sitting politician. They would only meet with police and health authorities. They only read from pages printed off the website. They wouldn't answer, any of the questions that the staff had about things like edibles or storefront access or any of the reasons that we were saying the program was a failure. And as a result, Alan Lowe, this was back in 2002, very conservative mayor, him and council ended up writing a letter to Health Canada, pretty much condemning their programs as inadequate. And so we were, using as much as possible our connection with our city and our city government through all this. Both me running for mayor and any number of things I did to try and fight the other levels of government. And so in a lot of ways it's worked, where I've been able to use different government institutions like the courts and the city to argue against other higher levels of government, and that continues to this day. So I started to get the acquittals in 2004. The reason we got the acquittals was because Health Canada's programs were completely inadequate. It was so bad when Health Canada first made their medical marijuana program in 2001, they would only give you a license to grow it and permit for somebody else to grow it for you, one person to grow for you. But there was nowhere to purchase it. If you couldn't grow it or a friend couldn't grow it for you, there's zero access to it all. And so when another club in Ontario got arrested and raided, they had a decision come down called the Hitzig decision, which really was the basis upon which we were granted our acquittals. And so there was a huge number, I think 4,000 trafficking charges in Canada that were dropped because the government was told they had no authority because the medical marijuana program was unconstitutional. And so, so we ended up winning through one way or another every single charge that was laid against us, both then and now. I think it's something like 15 different trafficking charges and stuff that me and my friends have beaten over 20. So that was 2004, 2005, all that went through. I got a $500 fine for smoking joints up here, 1 day in jail for my pot cookie giveaway. Things were rolling right along. One of the really interesting ones, or cases, was in the second trial of the club. I was the first trial I was acquitted, the chaperone decision. The second trial, they actually dropped the charges of cannabis marijuana, but proceeded on charges of cannabis resin and argued that the cookies and the sobs had the resin in it and that wasn't allowed by Health Canada. Health Canada allowed medical marijuana, not cannabis resin. They're separately listed drugs in the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. Well, that took me by surprise, took my lawyer by surprise. We weren't ready to argue these things. Judge Harvey convicted me. I was so upset at everyone. I actually wrote the factum, the arguments to the Court of Appeal, did all the work myself. I barely let my lawyer read it, and came up with enough arguments that when the Department of Justice read it, they realized I was going to at least get a new trial, if not win, and they just decided to drop the whole thing. So I'll never forget being in front of the Court of Appeal here when the case was being dropped, and I was telling the court that this charge of cannabis resin, that the case needed to continue because the law was unconstitutional, and I needed to make my arguments. And they're like, "But sir, the federal government's given up, you've won." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm breaking these laws every day, and until they're changed, we're not done. So I'll see you again." And ironically, we did. And so, so we were busy doing our thing. I was doing a lot of other activism at the time. And then 2009, things changed a little bit. But before I get into that, I'm just going to take a minute and describe some of our products here and how they work. And then I'll get back to some of our histories and stuff. So I just brought a simple cookie, not much to look at. It's made out of leaf. So there's all sorts of ways to make cannabis products. One reason why it's really hard to get what they call a DIN number, a drug identification number, because a DIN number is granted to a substance that is very controlled, very very regimented. So there's no inconsistencies at all if something gets a DIN number, right? So they don't give DIN numbers to any plant medicines or anything like that at all. So there's a DIN number for Marinol or synthetic THC, but really THC is only one of the important chemicals in here. There's another one related to it called CBD that a lot of people have heard about. It's in this group of chemicals called cannabinoids. They're all very similar to each other. There's really close to 100 of them. CBD and THC are just the most common, but each one of them has all sorts of different medical properties that we're just beginning to understand now. And so the plant, I guess, produces these chemicals in a few ways, but most of it appears on the surface of the plant as little crystals. Sorry, I should have had some slides on this, I wasn't thinking. But there's medicine throughout this whole plant. I didn't bring our stock and all, but we even, when we roll joints, we'll take the stalk and put that in olive oil from one moon to the next, and then we press it out after one moon cycle, and it just has enough of the THC and different essential oils to take the edge off a lot of people. It's kind of like microdosing for THC. And so, in some cases, just a small amount can have a pretty dramatic effect, especially if you use it cumulatively, for things like nerves and stuff. Our cookies are made on leaf. You wouldn't think they're that strong, but leaf is a powerful medicine too. There's 75 milligrams of THC in one of these cookies. The legal products that you buy, there's 10 milligrams in one of them. And just as an example of some of the cost differences that I've mentioned, we sell these cookies for $3. A legal cookie in a legal store, a 10 milligram cookie, I think they typically go for $10 to $12. So to get 75 milligrams in a legal cookie, you're talking $7,500 possibly for the same amount of medicine in a $3 cookie from our club. So, when it comes to the cost of our edibles and extracts, the legal system is completely disproportionate to ours. Like the cost that we charge for the bud and stuff like that, smoking, it's not as dramatically different. It's a little cheaper, but not nearly as much as these are. And likewise, not as potent either. Like we sell chocolate bars up to 750 milligrams, $26 for that. And then we have
how many
products,
milligrams? How many milligrams is that?
750.
And for how much?
$26. Our healthiest product we call Buddha Ball. It's just made with a bunch of proteins and foods, coconut and pumpkin protein and stuff like that. These were designed for cancer and AIDS patients. There's just enough food to keep a person alive. If that's all they can eat in a day, there's enough to keep them going. There's no sugar in it. It's super nutritious. Not actually that potent compared to the cookies even. Of course, we got gummies. Everybody's got gummies. But we got a few things that you maybe didn't hear of. For example, suppositories. We make 6 different kinds of suppositories. It's a very effective way to use medicine. Interestingly enough, if you don't push it in too far, it doesn't really get up into your head very much, so you don't get very intoxicated. It can stay in your lower body. It's great for lower body pain, lower back pain in particular, female problems, prostate problems, all sorts of things that can be hard to get medicine to. Because if you take a pill, it floods your whole body, whereas this can stay in the intended area. So we have like 250 milligram suppositories for cancer patients, because a lot of cancer patients are taking 1,000 milligrams a day to try and fight that. And so this is a way that they can get that much THC into their system without them being too intoxicated in so doing. We have bath bombs as well. Cannabis works through your lymph system as well as your bloodstream, which is why it can be not only effective as a suppository, but through your skin as well. Most medicines, it's one or the other. So yeah, so we got lots of topicals as well. My love Clay, I helped develop a few that have got some essential oils in them, but we have things like arnica salve, because arnica is great for arthritis, so we mix those up together. We have comfrey for broken bones and stuff like that. Of course, we got capsules. I think, and I'm not sure, I think we've got like 20 different types of capsules, ranging from like 2 milligrams and just a touch of the essential oils, through like hash caps to what are called rosin caps, or RSO, or Rick Simpson oil, which is this black gooey oil. I actually got a jar of it here if you want. Just this tar-like substance that's made. You basically cook the cannabis in isopropanol and just kind of cook it down to this black gunk. But yeah, we have capsules with 140 milligrams of THC and 30 CBD in them. So a pretty broad range of strengths for people sometimes.
Can I show the short video that shows making the capsules?
Yeah. Yeah, because people will find sometimes it's different combinations that work for them.
And then you take this here.
Yeah, that's me.
And fill up the capsule.
Work it away.
Just like that.
So just like that.
Yeah.
And then when you've got the trays all full, you just take the lids, put them on,
And that's
and
it.
then you got your decaf.
And then that, in this one, it would be this oil, which is the super CBD.
Super CBD. Yeah.
And how many milligrams would that be, you think, approximately?
I don't know all my numbers straight. I think that one is about like probably 20 milligrams CBD and 5 THC.
Okay. That's so interesting. Do you have any that are just CBD, or it always has? Oh, yeah.
We have like this
Oh,
wide
here,
variety
yeah.
of 20 different types of capsules. So we have pure CBD, no THC, and then low dose combinations, and then high dosage THC ones.
Thank you.
No worries. Yeah, and then there's different strains of cannabis that have different effects. Some we refer to generally as sativa, they're more uplifting. Others we refer to as indica, they're sort of the couch potato sedative strains. They can be quite dramatically different. A lot of people cannot tolerate one, but certainly couldn't live without the other. And the same goes with the capsules and the edibles as well. There's a difference. We'll have, like I say, this really broad range of options for people there. We have some in oils that would be in the capsules that we just put in bottles, because a lot of people don't like using capsules all the time, and would rather put it right on their food or bake with it or something like that. For a lot of people, the capsules are preferred just because it's so simple to use and easy. Another really great option is we have a couple CBD sprays, and this one here's got 10 milligrams per spray, so that avoids the cap, and you can put it right on your food and stuff like this. This is a pet spray, as I mentioned, THC helps all vertebrate animals. So this one here, you can just spray right onto their food or right into their mouth or right on their sore spots if they've got that. There's only 1 milligram of CBD in each one, so it's not that strong. And then we have another hemp product. This is from a hemp hash that was grown on the island here by a buddy of mine, and he makes this himself with a few different essential oils. And then I have more of what I called earlier RSO, or Rick Simpson oil. This has become known as the best way to fight cancer in the movement. It's like I say, it's a really cheap way to make this oil. Yeah, you can use it in a bunch of different forms. It's just in a dropper, so people can put single drops or use a whole vial. That's actually our newest product, and it's the one I'm the most proud of. I think it's going to help a lot of people. And then we have another RSO supplier that puts it in these little tubes that make it easy to squeeze out.
What's RSO?
Rick Simpson oil.
Oh, okay.
Rick Simpson cured himself of skin cancer, and then started to make videos and really promote the oil, and it just became known as Rick Simpson oil, RSO. It has a few other names. Phoenix Tears is another commercial name for it. It really is no different than the black biker oil that Quebec bikers were making in the 80s in some ways. Although some people now are making it a little more cleaner and more refined, so there's not quite as many residual of the alcohol, isopropyl in particular, left. Yeah. So I didn't bring any of our smokable products. In a way, there's not much to look at, although some of the bud is pretty nice, but I didn't want to teach it. Yeah, so these are things that we've developed over time. When I started, it was just the cookies, and then as patients came to us and told us what they needed and how things worked, and other products were developed out there, we gradually developed our own product line. We make most of these things ourselves, which helps keep the cost down, the quality of the ingredients fairly high, and control over the products too. Like, there's nothing worse than having a patient relying on a product made by a third party that all of a sudden decides they're not going to sell that anymore, or even be in business anymore. And all of a sudden you got to scramble to find a patient something that they need. So we've done our best to provide as much in-house products as possible, and that helps us control a whole bunch of different factors. And so yeah, it started with the the cookies and Buddha balls, and we've obviously tried and a million different things. The Ryanol capsules that we make are made out of leaf, same as the cookies. That was one of the first things that we made, and they've been exceptionally popular over the years.
How many patients do you have registered?
We've registered now about 9,200.
9,200.
It's probably about 2,500 currently using the resources. We've had a lot of people pass away, a lot in the last year even. People move, and certainly different things happen in people's lives. Now the legal system's taken a lot of our patients away a bit.
Do you have like an independent grow process with your club, or is it like do you source your marijuana third party?
We do that ourselves. That's one of my main jobs. I try and find smaller scale growers that are growing just enough to make a living, but not so much that they have to sell to anybody else. So if they're growing like 3 or 4 pounds a month is typically the sweet spot where they can make enough to pay their mortgage and keep things going, and not have to deal with anybody else, and then they don't have any other headaches, and that way I know it's like dedicated medicine coming to us, and so that's typically the ideal. I've probably got about 12 little growers working for us right now. Yeah, and that can grow bigger or more. Pretty much all local, from the island or Gulf Islands kind of thing.
How do you find growers?
Oh, they find me. Yeah, it's been interesting. In the early days, I only dealt with middlemen. A grower wouldn't come anywhere near me. But it was ironically after starting to get arrested that I was in the news, and I'd have growers come up to me and say, hey, I want this to be medicine. I want to work with you, despite whatever risks may come with that. And fortunately, there haven't been any. I haven't, to my knowledge, had any of my growers getting busted or harassed as a result of working with me. So that's been nice. But yeah, now I'm constantly sought after as a place to sell products. We're very reliable economically, and people pride themselves on selling their medicine to us. So.
Is it that the club has a very high reputation for quality and
Oh, very much so.
and access?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we're the kind of the mecca for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so 2009 comes along, and yeah, I'd hired Owen by that point. He was our head baker, working up there 3-4 days a week. We'd had a dedicated apartment for our bakery for a short time. When the police showed up one day, I was actually really happy. They didn't bust my pot store. It was really ironic having a press conference in an illegal cannabis store for the illegal bakery that got shut down by the police. So, yeah, it was a bit of a fluke, if anything, that it even happened. It certainly wasn't the result of the police investigation. It was the result of Owen playing his music so loud the neighbor called the cops. But anyhow, it certainly worked out for the better. Like I say, having learned what I did in the Harvey decision before, I was keen to go to court. This was like ideal circumstances for us to go to court because, you know, it didn't involve, like I say, a raid in our actual store, but I was going to go and nail the law that was the weakest. And so at that point, I decided to turn our little newsletter into a newspaper. You might want to come up and read some parts of it. This became a national newspaper that we sent across Canada, partly because all the other magazines failed. So we had this little opportunity to slip in and become the leading publication for a few years there. And it really centered around the trial and its development. It really helped, you know, drive, you know, the cannabis movement in a lot of ways as the laws evolved here and the alternatives to smoking became more accepted across the country. And so, Owen got arrested, we got a bunch of court. It was 2012 that the first decision was made where the judge ruled in our favor. It actually, what broke the judge wasn't our arguments. It was this little old lady on the stand talking about making tea. And my lawyer, Kirk Tusaw, was getting into the details of taking the tea bag out of the cup. And the judge interrupted, and he's like, wait a minute, Crown, are you telling me that we're here because that woman has suddenly made an illegal drug in her cup of tea because she took the bag out? And the Crown was like, yeah, that's what this is about. And that just totally changes the judge's attitude at that point, because even if you had legal medical marijuana, if you made a cup of tea out of it, you're suddenly producing cannabis resin and THC, and you're now possessing an illegal drug. And so that was a huge decision, not just for our club, but for this entire country for a couple of reasons. For one, it completely changed the perception of cannabis as medicine. Until that point, the only thing the public had heard was smoking cannabis is medicine. Well, all of a sudden, there's this whole other treasure chest of options that are out there that the general public really didn't have a clue about. And so that really undermined the medical community's arguments against medical marijuana as well, because they would argue vehemently against smoking any kind of drug as medicine. But all of a sudden, that wasn't the only option here. And so they could start to promote and use cannabis in other ways. And for the medical community, really, in a lot of ways, that's been a huge and very important shift.
Can you repeat the name of the decision again and the year?
What was that judge's name? Johnson, sorry. Yeah, Judge Johnson, 2012. So yeah, that decision also had a ripple effect, as I mentioned, for some interesting ways. A couple months after that decision came down, we're going through the appeals and stuff, but all of a sudden the Canada Revenue Agency sends a couple of undercover agents into our store, because I guess I told them I wasn't paying too many taxes on the stand. So that was over, but for me, that was a big day, these two CRA agents were actually kind of nervous in the store. Like they're just watching all this money coming and going. And typically when they walk into a place, the people behind it are running out the back door. Whereas I'm all loud and proud. I'm like, this is great. You guys are here to legitimize us. And they're like, no, we're just here to get the taxes. I'm like, the day the government's coming here to get their taxes because they're not gonna bust us anymore is the day this gets legit. And so we were in the Times Columnist and a couple of other media, because one of the other things that I did was I used that as an opportunity to transition from my store into a fully fledged nonprofit society. And so I didn't pay any of the back taxes. I declared bankruptcy against that. We started to pay taxes going forward though, and our nonprofit society has since run this ship through all sorts of waters. But it was really not only a turning point for us, but for the rest of the industry, because suddenly everyone read in the newspapers, hey, if you're selling medical marijuana and paying your taxes, the police are gonna leave you alone. Well, hey, 2012 just happened to be the year that dispensaries started opening up all across Canada. And that's when I say the city of Vancouver and Victoria started to cite our case as justification for allowing that and licensing them even. And so that worked its way forward, and it was 2000 and, that's just a group shot of actually when we turned it into a nonprofit. So you're in there somewhere, Ron? Yeah, there's Owen there. His girlfriend at the time, Coco, and there's me with my love, Gail, and of course the crew. So it was really exciting times for us. Then we had I don't have. We won the Court of Appeal, which actually, interestingly enough, was a 2-to-1 decision instead of being unanimous, which actually helped us get to the Supreme Court of Canada. The Supreme Court of Canada hearing, if you ever get bored and want to watch, is actually on YouTube. Me and my friends just watched it a few weeks ago. The really entertaining part is listening to the Chief Justice just rip the Crown Prosecutor to shreds as he tries to argue that smoking is the only safe and effective way to use cannabis as medicine. The last thing that the Chief Justice said to him was, why don't you try sticking to points that are relevant? And that kind of shut him down. It was a 7-0 decision. The Supreme Court wasn't buying Health Canada's arguments at all. In response, the federal government, Rona Ambrose, was livid. While they abided to the court decision marginally, she quite angrily claimed that she would never declare marijuana as medicine in any way, shape, or form, and that they would fight this decision somehow, even though there was no clear mechanism to do that. Owen actually made this really fun video of some of the news and results of that decision. That was 2015, and that really had a huge impact on the cannabis industry as well, because suddenly, everybody that was growing cannabis as medicine, and by this time Health Canada changed the rules a bit, so there's like several companies that were supplying cannabis as medicine. They were all like, this is our cash cow. Now we can take all this product, all this shitty pot that we can't sell, and we can make it into stuff. And so they saw this as a huge opportunity. Wall Street Wall Street's New York, isn't it? Bay Street in Toronto saw this as a huge opportunity to make money as well. And so that was really the final straw in Prohibition when the campaign started for the next election shortly after the decision. The Liberals just kind of picked up on that momentum, and things changed dramatically at that point. And so for our club, things weren't so easy. I mentioned my love, Gail. So I fell in love with one of the members, we had quite a few amazing years there together. She was the one who rented the apartment that Owen got busted in. We did all sorts of things. We had so much fun here on campus. She really helped develop a lot of the products and just really made me a better person. Anyway, Gail testified in the trial. She had just had her breast removed from cancer at that point. And then, as the trial progressed, the cancer came on. At one point, I brought her home thinking she was going to die fairly soon. Yeah, so anyway, her back broke, the cancer got in her bones, right? So they just collapsed. And they were 2/3, the two vertebrae that collapsed, 2/3 the size they should have been. And we thought she was going to die in the hospital. None of the opioids were working very well. After a couple days, we got her on fentanyl, which seemed to deal with the pain and not give her any nausea or any other side effects, but she couldn't eat. Which is where my friend Sita showed up with some suppositories. And those suppositories calmed her down enough that she not only got the pain down, but that she could start eating. And it was only a grape at a time. But it was enough to get not only food in her stomach, but some capsules into her stomach too. And as we got more suppositories into her, and she stabilized a little bit, I took her home to die. She lived for 2 more years after that. And if it weren't for those suppositories and those capsules, I would have lost her long before. But it was during those 2 years where I was caring for her at home that we went to the Supreme Court of Canada. I had friends look after her while she was in the hospital bed. But it was shortly after the decision that Gail passed. And so soon after that, I quit. I couldn't do this work anymore. Legalization was happening, it seemed like my work was done. But after a few months, a few things were clear. My club couldn't live without me. But my club couldn't survive through legalization without me either. There was lots of internal problems in the club, to be sure. It really just about collapsed without me. And I couldn't let people suffer and die because we just couldn't function. That just didn't seem fair. And so at that point, I'd gotten together with Playa, and we came back to the club and brought it back to life. But legalization was a huge problem because there's so many different rules and regulations that if we had tried to comply, if we had tried to become a legal recreational store, we just simply would have went bankrupt. Just so many different rules and regulations, and the cost of shutting down and maintaining a storefront without any revenue. You know, we're a nonprofit society. We can't get loans or deal in different financial institutions in ways that other agencies can. So it's like we're hampered because we're a nonprofit society. So we would have been crushed, we would have gone bankrupt. And even if we had transitioned, we would have been handcuffed with the regulations that wouldn't allow us to tell a cancer patient what medicine to use or to sell a high dosage edible to a patient. And so we made the very hard decision to stand up and almost go back to square one and fight all over again. And so a lot of other clubs didn't. The BC Compassion Club I mentioned earlier, they folded up. They didn't even get raided once. The other Compassion Club here in Victoria folded up shop too, without a single raid. But I'd been through a few, so they didn't scare me that much. Although we knew that they could just shut us down if they really put their mind to it. But luckily no one in the province seemed that serious about it. And so, yeah, we got raided in November 2000, or no, shit, it's such a blur. No, 2019. Yeah, and then we got raided again in June of 2000. This is on Johnson Street. We used to have a store on Johnson Street. We were there for like 20 years. Then we got fines, $6.5 million, I think from the front page of the TC when that one came down. Actually, 3.2 million was my fine and 3.2 was to the club. They eventually dropped my fine, so we're just at 3.2 now. Yeah, so we had those raids, and they fined us. Then our building sold, and we got evicted, which was fun. So we had to find a new home for the club, which wasn't so easy, but we found a space that seemed to be all right. They sent our landlords a threatening message. They were going to get a $100,000 fine the day before we opened or moved in. They let us move in anyway. We got some pretty crazy landlords. It's pretty awesome. And so we got raided again 3 weeks after moving in. That anniversary is coming up 3 months next, or 3 years next month actually, which has thankfully been really one of the last actions they've taken against us. Since shortly after that, we filed for an injunction against the provincial and federal governments, combined with a lawsuit. Some of our arguments include the fact that when the Cannabis Act was brought in, at one point there was an amendment made by the BC government to remove our ability to argue the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So apparently we're under administrative law, and the BC government thinks that we're not allowed to or able to argue the Charter, and they even made that retroactive so that it not only came into effect that day, but it meant that the times that we've been raided before where we thought we had access to the Charter according to these new laws, that's just been completely removed. And so yeah, that's not daunting at all. But I'm quite convinced that when this gets in front of a real judiciary, that will all be struck down. And so yeah, that was 3 years ago we filed for all that. Then about 2 years ago, we had a really funny, weird thing happen with our insurance companies. And at the same time, the tenant in the front of the building moved out, and we moved from the back of the building to the front of the building, which has just been amazing. We went from this little cubby hole in the back that really wasn't very nice, no windows, nothing, to this absolutely gorgeous space that has a beautiful lounge for our patients, and it's right on Quadra Street, very accessible. There's lots of light coming in the doors. We've got a beautiful production room where you saw me making the capsules, and we couldn't be happier with our new home. Unless it was half the price, then we'd be happy. But it's certainly really worth the money, and it's been an exceptional place to work out of. And we've gone, the last couple of years in that space without any further harassment. Along the way, it's been weird fighting this administrative law. I'm used to fighting criminal law. Administrative law can take its time, and so yeah, there isn't the rush to make decisions here. And so we've been fighting within the BC government. It's a Solicitor General's ministry that we've been arguing here. And just last year, at the end of the year, they essentially finally agreed with themselves that they liked their decision. And now we've applied for a judicial review of what's happened here. And so that's slowly working its way through to, in a way, the province isn't in a rush to deal with us. In a way, I'm not really pushing hard either. Other things are happening along the way. For example, we're going through a rezoning application with our city to get zoned for cannabis retail. Typically, businesses can't operate until they have proper zoning, but our city's incredibly cooperative with us, and knowing that we're not in compliance with the zoning, they just want to help us to get that, and then we can fight the other levels of government. And so in a way, it'll be a really nice feather in our cap to have the municipal government give us rezoning, knowing that we're not in compliance with these other levels of government, because it really does show how our neighborhood and our city supports and endorses the work that we do, despite not being in compliance with the law. Yeah, so that's where we are there. Oh, the rezoning sign in the background. Yeah, so I could talk about our club and what we do for a very long time, but I think that might be the end of my time. So I'll take questions and be here as long as anybody wants.
Yeah, so I think we have lots of time for questions.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious how much work you guys have done with the more sort of mainstream medical side of things that, as even before legalization, especially after legalization, there's been lots more research into cannabis for a variety of health conditions. Are you guys involved in that at all, or collaborate with organizations, universities, researchers that are looking into that stuff?
As much as we can be. There's very little research being done on whole plant medicines. So in terms of the products themselves, there's honestly very little research being done at all. in terms of medical use especially, because drug companies don't see an opportunity to profit off of any one of these products, because it's very difficult to patent it, and people can make something very similar to it anyway, so you could pay all the money to go through the drug approval process, and then somebody else is gonna make money right beside you. So nobody in the drug approval end of things is doing much research. Unfortunately, my friend Dr. Mary Lou Gagnon couldn't make it here tonight. We've made some connections with some researchers up here at the university in the Canadian Centre of Substance Use. So those are the ones, a couple of them were cited in the readings that you have. And so and there's actually another study on chronic pain and cannabis use being done by a university student that should be getting wrapped up here right now, that we connected with. But really, unfortunately, on the research end, there's A, very little money being put into research at all these days, and B, the federal and provincial governments are pretty much only putting money into potential harms of cannabis, no different than under prohibition. So they're not really studying this plant in a way that we would like. They're trying to prove how bad it's going to be for kids, or how many people are getting injured driving, or how many are going to the hospital sick from it. That's the type of research that's being done on cannabis for the most part. And really, while cannabis is made medicine by the courts, the health community, the doctors have really resented it, especially initially when it was all about smoking cannabis, and they just went through this war with tobacco. So they weren't really interested in all of a sudden saying, well, yeah, you can smoke that, that's good for you. And so, the medical community and the Canadian Medical Association have been, pretty adamantly opposed to using cannabis as medicine. There's no question on the final exam to become a doctor about cannabis at all. So you don't need to know anything about cannabis at all to become a practicing doctor in this country. And I've had different relationships with doctors in the past. Some are very pro, some are very aware. They know how this works, they know what it is. But it's the institutions that they end up fighting against. Where I have had more luck, especially recently, is pharmacists. And so Health Canada, 2 years ago now, put out a review of the Cannabis Act. And in it, they acknowledge that storefront access is a problem for medical. But their conclusion is that pharmacies need to be doing it. And then they cite a bunch of reasons why there's barriers to that, including the lack of a DIN number, as I mentioned. So pharmacists aren't going to sell anything out of their store without a DIN number. These things aren't getting DIN numbers. Pharmacists aren't selling them anytime soon, but that would be their ideal. And so after reading that and having discussions with people, we've actually now hired pharmacists. I want to have one in every province. I haven't got that far yet. Because when a pharmacist looks up a person's medical file, they can see what other prescription drugs they're using, and then make recommendations about potential drug interactions. And they can actually charge the province for doing that. And so I don't have to pay the pharmacists for reviewing our patients' medical files. And as you can read in that newspaper article, or the digest I handed out, there are concerns about drug interaction. Interestingly enough, more for CBD than THC. The CBD affects the liver's ability to break down certain drugs, anti-seizure drugs, antidepressants, blood thinners, for example. And so that could be dangerous if people are using CBD and these other medications. Health Canada's program doesn't do anything about that. If you sign up to Health Canada's program, you get it delivered to you in the mail after the doctor signs something online. Your pharmacist is never involved in the discussion. They don't even know you're using it unless you tell it to them. Whereas now, I have a pharmacist screening every new patient and reviewing their file to see what drugs they're taking, to see if there are any potential drug interactions that they need to worry about. I have a local pharmacist whose main job is actually to screen the new patients. And so in the past, one of the criticisms we've had is that we're not only selling the cannabis, but we decide who gets it. Well, now we admit a new patient, and then I have a pharmacist go over their medical file to confirm that they have substantive medical issues that would qualify them to be using cannabis. And so instead of using a doctor as a third-party gatekeeper, which is what Health Canada's program has done, despite the doctors not wanting it, we've created a model that gives some professional third-party oversight into the gatekeeper, as well as really looking after the patient's best interest in terms of their drug interactions. And yeah, so I'm actually really excited about that. I've barely written or told anybody about that, so the next issue of the Digest is going to have more about that, because when I wrote this one here, it was last summer, and I was just in the middle of setting up that new program. But yeah, I think I've created a little model here that can work across Canada for other little nonprofits to open up, where they have some professional medical advice to help them out.
Just to follow up, could you explain to us how does medical online mail order work for medical cannabis?
Okay, well, yeah, so if you want to get medical marijuana like legally, you have to take a form to your doctor, and it's really awkward. There used to be one form for everybody. Now each company has its own form, which is fun, and so it's I believe it's still limited that when you sign up for medical marijuana, you get your doctor to sign a form for a company that gets registered with Health Canada. You can only buy from that one company. So if another company makes a product you like, too bad, go buy it from a rec store. So you send your thing to Health Canada, and then you do mail order online with that company. Typically now they don't even have anyone on the phone to answer questions, they just do it all by text, which for a lot of elderly people is not ideal. But yeah, and it's also
So they're
very
actually
awkward to find out what's available, because you have to go from each company's site to each other. It's not like there's this easy way to compare and see what the different options are if you're looking for a certain milligram or some product like that.
So in that scenario, there's very little governance or follow-up or any kind of medical supervision over that, other than the first note that you get from your doctor.
Zero.
Yeah. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah.
Maybe I just have no idea, but what is the difference between like now medical marijuana versus like for your standard person versus like going to like the farm per se? Like, is it that the medical marijuana is just like a higher dosage than what they're able to do?
It's funny because medical marijuana is an interesting term. The products for the most part are identical.
Okay.
It's more the use, the intended use. And so certainly high dosage edibles are typically more medicinal than recreational.
Yeah.
Right, like some people will do that on a weekend or something, but it's not typically for daily use unless you are a patient. So it's more about the intended use than the actual product, right?
Oh, okay.
Like I could walk into farm and turn it into a medical marijuana store by talking about it. Like it's something where now the rules do not allow them to give any medical advice about their products at all.
Oh, okay.
So if you walk into a store and say you've got cancer, what they should use, unless they actually have cancer themselves, they can't tell you.
Oh.
So a lot of them will work around that if they can, like sleep and anxiety and stuff like that. If people say those are their problems, or it's like, well, I use this to sleep.
Okay.
I use this one calms my nerves down, sort of thing. But if they don't have that experience themselves, then they are actually breaking the law by giving any medical advice to say that this one will help you relax even.
Oh, okay.
Like it's like the rules are pretty weird.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
so-
I think at a storefront, many employees do say that.
Oh, they do.
They'll tell
Yeah.
you, this makes you relax. There's CBD, CBD.
Yeah, this will help.
CBN.
They have to do it off their own
Yeah,
experience, so
yeah.
that wasn't the best example.
Yeah.
But they can't give advice for like nausea or spasms from your multiple sclerosis. They can't tell you what to use or how to use it, but you should be.
Okay, cool. Okay, so it's just that and so the dosage that you get from medical marijuana is like you're capable of getting something higher through that only, or and you guys? or is that
Oh,
something?
like you can't get a high dose from the legal system.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
was wondering.
no,
Yeah,
the legal
okay,
system, it's 10 milligrams,
Okay.
whether it's the medical or the recreational.
Right.
So it's very low dose.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought
Yeah.
it was.
No, Health Canada came out immediately after the court decision, and we're like, we're gonna allow it, but it's gonna be like this little itty bitty amount, the lowest amount possible for you to have an effect.
Right.
And they've just beaten the drum, we've gotta protect children, we can't make it any higher, because children get access to it.
Okay.
So that's been their main argument, for keeping it so low.
Okay. I get it, okay.
Yeah,
I was
so-
confused because it's odd that like, I thought that there was a real push that medical marijuana was like super important to be its own thing,
Right?
but it's
Yeah.
the same. That's
Yeah.
okay. That's frustrating.
And so tell us for patients who have cancer or other types of chronic illnesses, what types of concentrations are they taking, for example?
Okay, well, like I said, I mentioned the suppositories, you know, we make them up to 250 for cancer patients using 4 a day.
Wow.
Right. There's something that's been called the Rick Simpson protocol. I mentioned them earlier. He has advised people to take 1,000 milligrams a day to kill their cancer if they've got it. For a lot of people, that's a bit more than they need.
Yeah.
But for other people like my love Gail, it's not enough. It depends on how aggressive the cancer is and a couple other factors. And, you know, there may be some strains that are better to fight certain cancers. We haven't got that far. It's a dream of mine to do that. But certainly, there's been, you know, great success of people completely curing their cancers, brain cancers, rectal cancers. Actually, today's the anniversary of Corey Yellen passing, a local activist who cured herself of rectal cancer with suppositories years ago, and she became an internationally renowned advocate, teaching people all around the world how to use this as medicine. So yeah, it's something that, you know, it's really, you got to be careful not to say that cannabis cures cancer, you know, in a way that sounds definite. It can cure it, but it doesn't always work. And when you get a cancer diagnosis, you get desperate. And if somebody tells you something can cure, sometimes, you'll go out of your way to do that. Yeah, so a lot of people try to work up to 1,000 milligrams a day, either in suppositories or capsules or making their own foods. That's what, you know, that this Rick Simpson oil here in particular is, you know, good for. And so a lot of people have to work their way up to that dosage. It's not something that a lot of people can tolerate immediately. But one of the things about THC is when it comes into contact with a cancer cell, it basically like attaches itself to it. And then the two of them will dissolve each other. And so you end up with a bunch of toxic residues in your system that you gotta flush out. If you've got a lot of cancer in your body, you could be taking a lot of THC and you're not gonna get high at all, because it's not even getting up in your brain, it's just being eaten up fighting the cancer throughout your body. Which is why people can tolerate the higher doses often. But yeah, there's been a lot of success with the Rick Simpson protocol. That's why, you know, RSO has become a common term.
So I know that more traditional values of abstinence and social stigma remain a core issue in cannabis and probably in the work that you are doing. Like somebody like my grandma, she has the more traditional views, yet she's got double hip replacement, she just had carpal tunnel surgery, she's had cancer like 2 or 3 times. She's in so much pain. How would you say that the makeup of your nonprofit sort of helps reduce stigma or combat or existing traditional values of abstinence?
Okay. In that way, I would say that our members are our best advocates, because as they learn to work with us, they, you know, share their knowledge of who we are and what we do. And, you know, we really specialize in, you know, I guess, CBD products and things that are alternatives to getting high. And so, you know, a lot of times, you know, we'll have, you know, the little ladies come into our club in this position and they've never used it before and they're really scared of it, but they don't have many options left, so they come to us. And so, yeah, it's very rewarding to have a lady like that come into our store and ask for our help. But it's really through our members that I think we dispel those rumors and myths and ideals. As they improve their health, they become more confident in talking about it. Yeah, and one of the other really nice things to see too is like the camaraderie within our members, because it's not like a rec store. When you come in there, there's like a lot of elderly patients, people in wheelchairs, and you know, people that are struggling. And so a lot of patients, when they first come there, it really feels very comfortable and home-like to them, that it's not this sterile doctor's office. You know, it really is designed very much like a family more than it is a business. And so, but yeah, we don't really do a lot of marketing or anything like that, so we don't really have any other means to dispel the stigma that's out there.
Ted, I see there's someone in a chair. How many people are using the devices to support them, or?
How many of our members?
Yeah.
Probably 5%.
5%.
Yeah. You know, some days when you come into the smoking room and there's like a lineup of wheelchairs against the wall.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, but
It seems. I just think. I feel almost the number would be higher than
it
5%.
might be,
Yeah.
but I've never actually tried to do that one. Any more questions, eh?
They're not. Oh yeah.
We just heard from someone from the Harbor who has like a super interesting ventilation system.
Yeah.
For their consumption. I'm wondering if there's anything users over the window.
Yeah, just hope my insurance company doesn't watch this. I've been able to successfully defend our smoking lounge against the health region and workers' comp. They've tried to shut it down in the past on Johnson Street. We have a beautiful smoking lounge where we are now, but the landlord's insurance company doesn't want it, so I can't really make a big deal of it.
But you do have an HVAC system.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
But
I think that's what Sarah's asking.
yeah, no, and through this rezoning, I've got to make some upgrades so that we actually are going by the same standards as the harbor. We don't have quite enough air exchange. It's good enough for us as far as we're concerned, but it's not quite the same. But it really kind of sucks that we've got to be at the same standard as people smoking meth, because we don't really feel like the air needs to be cleaned out quite as briskly as in that situation. Yeah, we've got a nice ventilation system in now. Yeah, even one of these studies that Mary Lou did on us, the first one was on the smoking lounge. It's something that I'm extremely proud of, and really wish that I could stand up more. We need smoking rooms in every hospital, every old age home. Like, you drive by the hospital now, you'll see people standing out on the sidewalk in the corner smoking joints, and vape carts and stuff, and it's just dismal. And so, in the past, I actually asked the health authority to give me a fine so that I could fight them in court, because that's the easiest way for me to change the laws. And they decided that they wouldn't do that, so they just let me go and do what I want.
Maybe I could show just 5 minutes of that walkthrough video, so
Sure.
so students get an idea of what's behind the door. And maybe you can walk us through. I'll turn the sound
Okay.
off. You can walk us through it.
I forgot he did these. These are fun.
Really great way to get the medicine into you.
Is that common? This is suppositories?
That's becoming more common.
Yeah. Just turn it off. Maybe you can describe what we're looking at.
Yeah, so they're talking about these suppositories. Like I say, we have 6 different suppositories from $2 for 50 milligrams up to 9 for 250. And then, yeah, we have, gotta say, different types of concentrates and stuff. This is our topicals. And yeah, it's kind of hard to show with it moving around a bit. And then this is our bud board over here. We typically only have like 12, maybe 10 to 15 different types of bud for sale. More than that gets overwhelming for our patients. Like they don't really need to choose between 600 strains. They just need to know what's gonna work. Like most of them come in just like they want the best. You know, so typically, yeah, we try to have a good little price range. Yeah, these are our capsules here. So like I was saying, from 140 to 2 milligrams. And then these are the different bottles of stuff that we make as well. And then our cookies, different stuff like that.
And as you were saying, the price is quite different than the storefront, right?
Oh, extraordinarily less than the legal stores. It's almost hard to believe how much they charge, really.
Is that all
how much it costs to
because
produce.
of profit? Is that-
A lot of it is on the edible side. Not as much on the bud side, where they're selling the smokables, but you know, and there's a lot of taxes too that are really not helping. But yeah, a lot of it is the company's just like $10 for a cookie. For 10 milligrams, it really doesn't cost much to make. Yeah, they're going by what they think they can sell it by rather than
Sure.
what it costs, or and yeah, over time the prices will come down, but certainly not yet. Yeah, and then hash brownies are very popular as well for sleeping.
Those are your gummies?
Yeah, the gummies are ridiculously popular. I don't like having sugar products, honestly, but it seems like everybody and their mom wants a gummy these days.
And what are those down there?
Those are more gummies.
Those are more gummies.
Yeah. Yeah, they become our #1 edible now. Yeah, and then there's our smoke stuff, our different concentrates and things. There's so many weird ways to make products to smoke out of cannabis now. It's kind of fascinating. Kind of hard to keep up with it. One of them I'll mention is called rosin. You can actually take a bud and squish it and add heat, and that heat and pressure will actually force the oil to separate from the bud. And after a few minutes, you'll have this oil kind of squeezing out of the machine. And you take that and you can smoke it. That's actually what we use in our suppositories because it's completely solvent free. And we have capsules made
So
out of that as well.
It's almost like cold pressed olive oil.
Yeah, essentially. So that was our alternative to using Rick Simpson oil, because that is completely free of solvents and just pure medicine. Yeah, and then we have different types of hashes as well. We have different CBD strains. A lot of patients like to smoke cannabis that's got a little bit of THC and mostly CBD. We even have one of our growers who gives us enough. In October, we do this CBD Awareness Month, and we give everybody a little bit of free CBD bud to smoke. It's actually been amazing how many people are like, wow, I like that, maybe I will buy some more. Because yeah, it really helps with any number of issues. And then over here we have cartridges. They become very popular. Over time, we're selling less and less of the herb and more of the alternatives. The cartridges, for example, don't smell nearly as much as smoking a joint. They're like stupid convenient because you don't gotta light something up, or if you're out in the rain or doing whatever, you know, hell, you can do one walking through Thrifties and they won't catch you. So, you know, it's something that's become a lot more commonly used, especially in apartments and stuff. A lot of people get evicted if they light up a joint, but we seem to be able to get away with the cartridges a lot easier. So that's becoming a lot bigger of a product for us as well.
Did you want to talk a little bit about the pamphlets here?
Well, just that, these are the pamphlets that we have down at the store for our patients that have questions about any of the different issues. Try to keep it as up to date as possible, especially now that I've learned more about drug interactions, so I've updated a bunch of them for that. So, feel free to take them.
And explain the membership. How does someone become a member?
Okay, to become a member, a person needs to show us proof that they have an incurable medical problem. Initially, it was just physical. Now we've opened it up a little bit. So if you have proof that you have anxiety, PTSD, sleep disorders, it's really schizophrenia and a few personality disorders that cannabis ain't that great for. So we don't just give a blanket membership to anybody that's on disability, because you can get on disability with mental health issues that aren't great. So we require people to come in with some proof of their actual condition.
What about someone that's like has a substance use disorder looking to use cannabis?
If they come in with an opioid prescription of some type, then we'll take them in.
Okay.
So if they're like using, methadone or any type of substance like that, we actually do make some exceptions for prescriptions to help with the opioid crisis. So.
Is it that you require usually a prescription, or is it?
No, I meant to make that distinction clear. It doesn't have to say anything about cannabis.
Okay.
So it's not a prescription for cannabis. It's confirmation that you have a significant medical problem. So a lot of doctors really love it because they don't have to put anything up that Health Canada is gonna read. It's like, yeah, you got arthritis, or you got a bad knee, or whatever it is. But they're not actually putting themselves in a position where they're condoning the use of something that they know very little about, which they hate to do, right? Because they've been forced to sign, use cannabis as medicine, even though they have no clue what it is or what product to recommend or anything like that, right? So, our system for years has actually worked pretty well for that. And the relationship we have with the pharmacist is great because he's not the expert in cannabis. He's the expert in all these other drugs. So we're still the ones making recommendations about use this, use that, use this in the day, use this at night.
I was wondering about glass, because I know it's like very not like a pipe or something. Like, do you have specific like glass made for people who have like difficulty holding things, who prefer to smoke it that way, or anything like that, or is that like way too niche to have like accessible glass? Because I don't know if like a bong is super easy for every single person, or if like your usual glass, you'll see ones that are like a snake, but you don't see ones that are like made specifically with like good grip, or for someone who like needs, like a little bit of help, especially since like if you aren't able to like eat or do something yourself, if you're able to like smoke on your own, but you need aid with that and a nurse can't help you. I was wondering if you guys had anything like that.
Well,